Welcome to Everything Horses and More podcast, educating, liberating, inspiring horse owners around the world. Join our live radio show in a revolution in horse care, handling, training, and achieve the life, relationship, and ride of your dreams. Every week we bring you education, expert advice, and inspiration about horses, training, and living authentically. We spend time diving in deep, talking about complex areas in horsemanship, such as horse psychology, biological behavior, and nurture, the real secrets to being safe with horses and how to achieve the best relationship and ride of your dreams with your horse. And that's not all. We also get real and honest about our personal lives and experiences, sharing what's worked and what hasn't about everything related to horses and more. Weekly podcasts are streamed live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Tao of Horsemanship Facebook page. Podcasts are hosted by Caroline Best and co-hosted by Sabrina Arbogast. Guests are invited periodically. Hope you can join us in our revolution in horse care, handling, training, and living.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Everything Horses and More podcast. I am your host, Caroline Best. We have our lovely co-host, Sabrina Arbogast.
Hey, guys.
And we have our amazing, lovely guest speaker, Erica Osman Mason. Say hello, Erica.
Hi. How are you? Thank you for having me, Caroline.
Yes.
Sabrina.
You are so welcome. And welcome, welcome, welcome. We've been waiting for years to figure out how to collaborate on our talents. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that's going to be today. Our topic is confusing self-care with being selfish, the negative effects it has on our relationships. And this is a topic off of Erica's new website and not podcast, but blog. And you can find Erica's website. Let me see here, my dear. Let me try to get to the last page of our paperwork. Your website is lightfilledlife.com. lightfilledlife.com. So, Erica, tell us a little bit about yourself. In a nutshell, everything, as you know now, Everything Horses and More, and for our newer audience and whatnot, they may not be familiar with the title of my podcast, but it is so inclusive. It includes everything about horses that we could possibly talk about and so much more. And for those of you that know me, everything is such a full circle and there's so many dots to connect, so to speak. So we may be talking about self-care and being selfish and confusing the two today, but we're going to be, Erica and me, we're going to be showing you how that affects our relationship with our horses and obviously relationships with our two-legged loved ones. Tell us a little bit about your history with horses, everything, all the way up into, until who you are and where you are today, my dear.
Okay. So I was blessed enough to grow up with a backyard horse, and he was my best buddy, my appendix quarter horse. CP was his name, Cinder Pass, who was a racehorse.
Wow.
And we just loved galloping through farmers' fields. Didn't realize how much they hated that, but it was really fun. And
yes.
I grew up in Maryland near the Appalachian Trail, and so we would get on trails and just spend all day in the summers riding.
Wow.
And it was just my bliss. And then got away from horses for many years during my later high school and college years, and then got back to it in my 20s. And I had also been studying meditation and was teaching yoga and energetic work, was doing massage and craniosacral therapy. And so was bringing back into this passion for self-awareness, and started reading a lot as I was so frustrated, thinking that my first horse that I had, we had such an amazing relationship, and I kept on trying to find that horse and just wasn't getting anything close to it.
Yeah.
So as I'm sure lots of the listeners understand what it's like to find that soulmate horse. And so started reading about natural horsemanships books and studying with people. And as fate would have it, I got to meet Caroline at a little expo that I was going with a friend to promote a book she was writing, and was just so awed with Caroline. I had to meet her right away, and things just clicked. Shall
They
I
sure
give
did.
it back to you?
That was back in 2009, everybody. Yep, that was awesome. And you and I were both going through divorces. We were both going through our first marriage divorces.
Yes.
And I was looking for a place to move my brand new business, what I have today, my brand new business. I just officially started it in 2008 and found a lovely place in Pennsylvania, not too far from Baltimore, York, PA. Beautiful. It was one of my clients' farms, and he was renting out one of the houses and had space for all of us. So yeah, you and I hit it off great, and I wasn't really aware of your talents with energy and your knowledge, education, experience with it, because my headspace at the time was promoting. You know, I was brand new to the business. Oh my gosh, nobody knows about me. I've got to get out to the expos and get recognized, and we need to produce DVDs. And it was so cool because you had just started taking a class or finished a class with your dad, who was a professor of videography and filmmaking. And so you were learning how to do that. And I needed that service. And it wasn't until you started filming me and studying, you know, my method as a student too, that you're like, I'll never forget it. And I tell it often, Erica. You know, I'm like, I didn't even know what a chakra was. And she's watching me as an apprentice, and you're like, oh, wow, look at how, you know, each of these horses, you know, you're using your body like a tuning fork. And, you know, they are either responding or you're responding to their energy field. And you just started bringing it up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a little familiar. I'm very familiar with energy on an intuitive level, but I had never studied chakras or could articulate, you know, what I can today. That's for sure. So yeah.
Well, and it was just so perfect because I was experiencing things with people on the table in my office where they were having these magical moments where they would connect with their chakras, or someone who had passed would give them a message, or all these magical things would happen. But I wanted to see they'd go back into their real life and not really know what to do with it. And
Yes.
I was looking for in my life, okay, how can we make this real? And so it was so amazing for me, and I still talk about this too. I saw you, like you pull your energy in and down to the earth and the horse would stop, or you would pull your energy in toward your second chakra and the horse would come to you when you're working at Liberty, or you would push them out with your third chakra. Or you would lift up into your fourth chakra, the chakra of air, and the horse would jump up. And so when we started talking about these elements and these energy centers, you were like, oh yeah, that is what I'm doing.
Yeah, like I could feel it. I could obviously feel it, which is so cool, but I just didn't know. Yeah, I didn't have the education by any means that you did. And you gave me one of your books. It was a thick ass book on chakras and energy. And I can't remember if it was from Anita Judith or not, but I read that. Remember, like the whole weekend, I was like crying, good tears, because I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've always known, but I didn't know, you know. It was beautiful.
You did know.
It was beautiful. Our connection, you and me, and it was, you know, just what we innately connected to as individuals, and then what we brought together in our friendship was so powerful. And, you know, and then 2 years later, you know, it comes to a crashing halt. You know, I fall in love with my husband today. But it was more than that. You know, we were really tired of where we were living. We didn't like, you know, it's hard renting, you guys. You never know if you're going to get along with your landlord or not. And it wasn't that we didn't get along with our landlord, but he was a creep. And not to mention the business. It's hard because I talk about this stuff all the time openly with my audience. And and now you are the witness. So like I'm always talking about these experiences, and you know you're going to be able to back it up. But we became really successful almost overnight with the 2010 Massachusetts Equine Affair. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. So when I talk about no, you couldn't even get to our booth. Remember, there were 50 people deep in both directions, and I went out with a clipboard to meet people, and a clipboard to take down contacts. At least I was smart enough to create the contact forms, right? And
I was busy selling videos.
oh my God, you and Chelsea were we had the knuckle busters, you guys. I didn't have enough money back then to buy the $1,000 credit card machine. So we were doing the old bank knuckle busters. So Erica and Chelsea were behind the booth selling DVDs. Mary was running back and forth to the truck taking the truck to the trailer to get more DVDs. And for those of you that aren't, I just started becoming a national clinician. So it was my first year out and my first time at the Massachusetts Equine, and we just stole the show. I mean, business. We were booked for 6 months when we got back. It was like every weekend was at a clinic or an immersion or, an intuitive workshop, horses and training. It was crazy. So that would have been the beginning of 2011. And between that success and I got totally scared and burnt out, scared because it wasn't the type of success I wanted, meaning I didn't like a lot of the people we had attracted. And I felt that they might have, obviously, I didn't give a false impression. I mean, we came out with connection and communication. We came out with spirituality of horsemanship. I mean, we were on it, but I wasn't prepared to deal with the type of people that needed what we were producing and able to give. I wasn't prepared to deal with them. For just the lack of a better word, I don't want to I don't want this conversation, this podcast to go off in that direction. And then the creativity was gone. We were done doing all the DVDs. We produced like 15 in 6 months, you guys. And Erica we started our first blog. Oh my God. All this is up on YouTube. Erica, we did the commercials and we still have it up on YouTube. And so you had that. And then we had this creepy landlord that was absolutely sabotaging so many of our clinics. I mean, he'd come down in the middle of a clinic or a workshop and just start flirting with he was married and older. He was a creepo. Oh yeah, you're laughing, aren't you, Erica? Mm-hmm. I mean, Chelsea's mom, your mom wanted to say something. Chelsea's mom wanted to say something. I mean, he was so inappropriate. It was unbelievable. So we had that going on, and then I met Kurt. So yeah, there was a lot going on, and I literally just said, I'm done. I'm just done. I'm burnt out. I'm burnt out, honestly, because when I moved to Florida, you came and visited, and we were still trying to think, how can we continue this work while you're in Colorado, I'm in Florida, and I don't have a facility anymore. I'm I'm boarding my 3 horses, but I traveled for 2 years. That's how popular. I traveled for 2 years, you guys. I had like a handful of clients in the Tampa Bay area here in Florida. I did not have my Ocala facility at the time, and I was so burnt out from having a facility and having, people there that I traveled to make my money for 2 years. And then I got burnt out from that. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. And you were busting your ass working on your master's. And like, this girl is so smart. She was getting 100 or 120% on all of your tests because you're so intelligent.
I just worked my butt off. I don't know about that.
Yes, you are. Yes, she is, you guys. And yeah, it's just amazing. But anyway, we always kept in touch. We're soul sisters with deep appreciation, gratitude, and respect for each other. And we certainly had 2 years, I did, of the best years of my life. They were scary, they were hard. And without going through those experiences and learning from them, I wouldn't be able to offer what I offer, or you be able to offer what you offer today. And so here's where that full circle comes back. Erica, this is your first podcast with me. I have a tendency, it's kind of my style, to go off on tangents a little bit. And then
not know that.
Yes. You know that about me, and then just reel us back in here. So here we go. I know you only have an hour left. So I'm going to give the platform over to you, my dear. I did print out 2 one-page quick articles from Heart Math, and I know you know Heart Math, the Heart Math Institute. And so I signed up. I belong to their email list, and they had 2 recent, since you and I talked about this, little emails. One's about inner stillness, and the other was about solutions for reducing stress. So if we have time, I'll bring that up, but I want you to take the platform, my dear. Okay?
Okay.
So yeah, just go ahead, and I'm a really good reader. Like I said, I usually read. But if you're comfortable, go ahead and read to everyone what you sent to me, what this is all about, because this is just amazing. And it has so much to do with energy work and chakra balancing and what I do as well. So we'll get into all of that. But go ahead, my dear.
Okay. Well, so our topic today is confusing self-care with being selfish and why that has negative effects on our relationships. And like Caroline said, all of our relationships with our horses, with the people in our lives, with ourselves. So when we don't take time for self-care, everybody knows, right, that most people know
Yeah.
that we need to take time for ourselves in whatever way that is important to us. But a lot of people, even though there's that should, like, I know I really should, or I know it's a good idea to, they just put shit off to the end of the day, and then they're too tired and they fall asleep, or they just feel, and when I have conversations with people about that, they're like, I just feel guilty. Like, I did it and I feel guilty. For example, several mothers that I'm working with who have chronic headaches, like almost daily headaches, have talked to me about, like, we'll talk about little strategies for taking time for themselves, like maybe having some sort of rule at dinner where only one child can talk at a time, so it's not just a chaotic mess, and or
Yes.
yes, or laying down, because you're an introvert and you've been working with people all day long, and before you're with your whole family at dinner where they're all going to be talking, maybe you go for a 10-minute walk, or you lay down for a few minutes.
Let me interject something. That also goes hand in hand with boundaries, doesn't it, though? Right there, right?
Yeah,
What you're right.
absolutely.
Yep. I think that's a key word for people to identify with, as far as like asking yourself, if you're listening to this, self-care is equivalent to having healthy boundaries.
Absolutely. And I think in our third chakra especially is a good place where we begin to feel that acutely. And we'll go into that more later.
Okay.
But yes. So having boundaries for ourselves and realizing then, what do I do? What do I need? Do I just need TV time, or do I need to go for a walk, or what is the thing that's going to actually fill up your batteries?
Yes.
And often there is a cup that fills all the other cups. And when I say cup, I'm meaning the chakra or energy center. There is a place, like for me, I need alone meditation and creativity time, which is quiet time away from other people. Like, usually if I get time for that, everything else feels good in my life. And then I can be good about, I'm not feeling overtired and just wanting to be a blob because I'm
Yep.
so busy, or I
But
want to connect with my relationships, that's the one that fills up all the others for me. But
so
I
hold
need
on.
something in all of them.
Yeah,
Yes.
hold on for a second. So why I'm interrupting is to help people understand. I'm going to slow it down a little bit. So
Absolutely.
self-care is about boundaries, you guys. You got to ask yourself, cuz saying self-care is a beautiful word, and one that I've really come to appreciate this year, and you know that on a personal level. You and I have spoken about that, Erica and Sabrina. Self-care has been really important for me this year. But self-care is also about boundaries. And most people don't realize that. And a lot of people that I deal with on a personal level with the coaching and whatnot, and with the horsemanship, boundaries is one of the biggest issues for people to understand. Now, the second thing
Yes.
you're talking about, real quick, is I want to make an identification to help people identify more easily. If you're an introverted person, or no, let's look at it like this. If you, as an occupation, are involved with people all the time, to me, it's kind of black and white that you're going to need your self care is going to be quiet time. Versus if you're the type of person that sits in a cubicle by yourself all the time, or maybe we're at home now working and, we're by ourselves, right? We're not in a big group, environment anymore because a lot of us are still working at home after COVID. Then you're going to want maybe to jump back into a lot of dynamics and interaction with people. Maybe that's your self-care. So I'm going to stop when I feel like I need to help the audience take a moment to identify. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. And I got a little ahead of myself, so thank you.
You're good. No, you're good. This is what I love to do. So just, I don't mean to be rude, you guys, but I jump in. Okay. So you're talking about your self-care, and you are involved with people in your occupation, in both of
Yes.
your jobs. The light-filled life is your personal business. In the Akashic records, the readings, that's what you do, and we're going to talk about that too, and how amazing it is. And then for your occupation, you deal with people all the time too. So it's obvious. It's like I'm right with you. Me too, right? So my quiet time is when everybody leaves and it's the end of the day and I'm here at the farm by myself. And I often get up too though, and that's another key thing is I don't just wait till the end of the day. Even though I work from home and I work in my with the environment of my horses, I make it. I Every day I get up many times from my office, you guys, and go out and spend 10 minutes with my horses. It is amazing for my relationship with them, and it's an amazing break. I think that's a key point is how often do we deny ourselves that? We only get up from our desk when we have to go to the bathroom or get a drink. And it's like, no, get up for 10 minutes and stretch and go somewhere. Just take a break, stop what you're doing, completely disconnect from what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be all or nothing or wait till the end of the day. Because to me, that's when shit can hit the fan and stuff just happens. And all of a sudden, you don't have time for yourself. I've learned the hard way. It's like, oh my gosh, something happens. It's just a, what's the word I want to say? Like a domino effect. And before I know it, it's bedtime and I'm ready to cry and I'm overwhelmed and I'm ready to bite someone's head off because I never got that decompression time.
Right.
So I'm here to say, don't wait till the end of the day because you could get a flat tire on your way home. You could have an accident. The plumber's got to come. Your kids or something's happened with your kid or your horse, and all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock at night and you never had that moment. So I'm just putting that in there. You guys start making these practices where you can give yourself that 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And we're going to help you guys with this. This is what we specialize in, Erica and I. Okay, girl, go.
So yes, I'm going to just back up a little bit. That sometimes those we have. So there's this budding belief, like I realize I need more time, quality time for myself, and then there can be family values, like what is that saying that the idle hands are the devil's work or something like that.
Oh God, don't ask me. You know how awful I am with those.
Or there's can be very strong work ethics in families where
Yes.
it's like, if you're sitting down, like,
Yes,
if
you
you're
better
not
be
busy,
doing
I'm
something.
gonna make you busy.
Yes, I grew up in that family. Here, you're sitting there, make yourself busy, do this, help me with that.
Right. And then it's bad to take a break. There can be religious
That's a good
examples
point.
where people are martyrs, feel like, you have to give to everyone else first. And that's beautiful, except for when you have nothing left to give.
Catholic.
Then
All of you Catholics out there, I was raised Catholic. My mother, oh my gosh. Exactly.
It's, how much better could you give, or how much more can you give, or how much patience could you have if you did give to yourself as well?
Yeah, you don't feel depleted. You don't feel like you're robbing yourself, and it builds up. I mean, how many of us can raise our hand and remember or are currently going through those moments where we are just so angry? And sometimes we're just angry and we don't know why. But if you can trace it back, you can connect those dots. You can go, wow, I see patterns here. And oh my gosh, I deny myself constantly. And so you build up resentment. You build up resentment towards everything. Could be your spouse, your job, your lifestyle, everything. It's huge.
Right. Anything that's getting in the way, that you see is getting in the way of you getting that quality time you need.
Yes.
I was talking to a gal the other day doing an Akashic consultation, and she said, yeah, I realized after being with my 3 boys all day long and being a massage therapist and taking care of everybody, that I just end up staying up watching TV till 4 a.m. because I want something to myself, but then it doesn't feed me either.
She's exhausted. Yeah.
I start the next day exhausted, and it starts all over again. So it's the kind of self-care too is important. Good point. So these types of values can be very difficult to contend with because they're programs, they're intense programs that have sometimes been in there since we were in the womb, and all through our growing up. So first, I just want to say, don't feel bad if you're like, I've tried doing things for me and I feel incredibly guilty and I don't enjoy it. That happens a lot, and that's something that we can help you with through this Akashic and energy work stuff that we'll mention later on. Awesome. As Caroline was just saying, when we continue to spin our wheels and do all the things we have to do and don't give back to ourselves, then depletion, that turns into depletion, which shows up as exhaustion. I call it overtired. When I'm overtired, I don't know about you guys, when I'm overtired, all the things, great intentions that I have for eating well or having good habits go out the window. Fatigue, stress, anxiety, depression, feeling easily frazzled or frustrated. Yep. Disoriented, unorganized, cloudy thinking, can't think straight or clearly, chronic muscle tension, chronic pain, which is what I see a lot, and other physical ailments. Yep. Because our bodies are trying to tell us something. They aren't our enemies. So then if we go to our horse feeling depleted, feeling overtired, our horses sense that right away. We're broadcasting how we feel to them. Oh, sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I had a consultation with one of my beloved. I say beloved because I've known her for a long time, and I love this one of my students yesterday, and just some old patterns are hard to break, and this is a perfect conversation for her. But her life has changed, and she recently moved and has her own little farm right now, so her horses are in her backyard, but things have regressed and with her horses, but it's what she's bringing, to that relationship, which is a lack of clarity and a frazzled mind and being overwhelmed, which leads for her into depression and anxiety. And this horse is a huge trauma case. He's one of the biggest trauma cases I've ever dealt with, and he's never been fully rehabilitated. It always comes down to a lot of time and money. So over the years, I've done what I could, it was nice to be able to reconnect with this horse and see that obviously they don't forget anything, you guys. But he was also being electrocuted by her. He was getting a lot of mixed messages. And I find that that's the number one issue, challenge, problem facing horsemanship, period. When things don't go well with your horsemanship, I don't care whether it's on the ground, and horsemanship is all areas. It's ground and riding, you guys, and horse care. Just look up the definition. It's not just riding or groundwork. But if it's not going well, it usually is because you are confusing your horse. And confusing them doesn't necessarily mean that you're trying to teach them something new and you don't know how to teach it to them. It means it's what you're bringing to the table, what you're bringing to that conversation, to that interaction that is confusing them. You're telling them with your body to do one thing called incongruency, and then yet your mind and your heart are somewhere else. And for a horse like this one, he's been so traumatized, he just, the trust factor was being, it's raining again here. The trust factor was, thank God we didn't try to go live. Yeah. The trust factor was just, being eaten away and dissolved and broken down. And she wasn't paying attention. She couldn't understand why things got so bad so fast. But it's also because she allowed herself to get caught up into that lack of self-care where she moved, things were busy, she's overwhelmed with, everything. And, so I had to come up with a plan, which was great. I loved doing it yesterday for her, where it's very similar to what you and I are talking about right now. It's like, this is your strategy. You're going to have to do this every day. It's okay. You're the only one that handles him. And don't be overwhelmed. It's not like you have to set an hour or 2 hours aside, you guys. That's what I'm trying to tell you just with your own personal self-care. Mm-hmm. Take the 10 minutes extra to make that connection with him, to still your mind, to bring some calm to both of you that's going to reestablish that level of trust. And getting still, grounding yourself, centering yourself is what enables all of us, if we do it properly, to get clear, to have clarity, to become congruent. And that's all I have to add about that.
That's great. That's great. Which goes right into, do you want to read that next paragraph there? It's so part of what you just said.
Oh, how many of us go to our horses wanting to spend time? Yeah, I didn't even see that. How many of us want to go, to our horses wanting to spend time with them so we can feel full, connected, revived, strengthened, and renewed? We can't wait to go see our horse in the morning or after work. But then it backfires. And before we know it, our horse starts acting up, no longer listening to us or wanting to connect with us. Before long, it becomes a cycle of disappointment and frustration for both. So does it sound like you? If it does, both of us, Erica and I, can help. But first we need to understand that if we don't do things to lift ourselves, to fill ourselves, not deplete, if we don't do these little things so that we feel connected to ourselves, we feel connected to nature, which includes the horse. If we don't do things that help us feel full and renewed, we will drain our relationships. First, we'll drain ourselves. And as a saying goes, right? If we don't have it to give, we're not going to get it. So if we can't give self-love, we're not going to get love. If we can't give ourselves some level of feeling abundant and good about ourselves, we're not going to be able to receive that. We won't. You know why, guys? Because we can't identify with it. That's why. If you don't know how to love yourself, how can you really love anyone else? It's the key word is identify. If you don't know what self-love is, then you can't identify with really loving someone else fully. If you can't identify with what it feels to give self-care, nourishment, give back to you, how can you give to anyone else? How can you fully give to anyone else? Fully, not half-ass, not, oh, hey, son, I'm multitasking right now, but I'll give you a quick kiss. Did you feel that? Oh, yeah, your kid's going to feel that. it's going to feel like a piece of shit. Honestly. And kids, like horses, are so tuned in, so raw and honest and forgiving to a fault. But that's the whole purpose. The key here is so many of us think, oh, well, for that split second, I'll acknowledge so-and-so and give them a pat on the head or a kiss. But it goes much deeper than that. And we so often can fool ourselves. We can so often fool ourselves into thinking and believing that we're doing something, but we're just doing the mechanics. We're not fully invested.
Just going through the motions.
Correct. You take over.
So this is like we've heard these things before, these ideas of you have to love yourself first, and I know I've seen people say that and roll their eyes, and like how much it feels like it's some goal you have to achieve or something, like, oh, I love myself now. It's a process. It's an everyday thing you come back to. And another way we want to talk about this is Dr. David Hawkins.
Yay!
He did a lot of work, and he talked to, there's a brilliant image that maybe we'll share that I took from the lawofattraction.com speaking about him. But there's this upward spiral of energy and emotion and a downward spiral of energy and emotion. So another way of thinking about loving yourself is, are you in these positive emotions? Are you honestly feeling them, where you feel positive, content, hopeful, optimism, happiness, enthusiasm, eagerness, empowered, love, joy? Are you in these emotions that help you to lift you up? Or are you coming to your relationship, to your horse, with a feeling of frustration, impatience, pessimism, irritation, anger, worry, doubt,
insecurity.
That's a big one.
Guilt.
Or to your kids, all these things pull you down. And so what we're talking about, loving yourself, is doing something to take care of yourself. It can be 5 or 10 minutes that helps you to get up into that upward spiral again. And then you come to your horse. Then you come to your relationship. And you're going to get a completely different reaction, where your horse can then meet you at that vibration of hopefulness and optimism, as Caroline talks about all the time. And, your horses really mirror you. And so go with that.
You bet. And I want to also add, because I get this feedback from my clients, students, that, you just got to be real, people. Just be fucking raw and real. That's another thing I'm going to throw in here. You don't have to be happy all the time, but don't try and fake it.
Right.
Don't try and fake it. So if you come, to your horsemanship, your relationship at the end of the day, or anything, or you're just in a really bad place and you've got to take care of your kids right now, just say, hey, I'm having a really bad day. And part of self-care is go and cry. How many of my students will not let themselves cry? And the whole science behind tears and crying is that it is part of your adrenal gland, obviously. It's adrenaline. So the more we fight crying and refuse to allow ourselves to cry, the more we store pent up adrenaline. And it will implode. It will implode. And so, just being honest, instead of, again, saying to or snapping at your kid, why not just take that minute to learn how to, as Erica said, it's a process. Learn how to just ground yourself for a few seconds before you speak, even if you want to tear someone's head off. Just get grounded, be in the moment, touch something that brings you to that moment. Like, I just put my hands on the table. I just put hands on the warmth of my thigh. I rested them on my thigh. I put my hands on the shoulder of my horse. I was in the kitchen and I wanted to explode on my child. So I just touched the counter and brought myself to being present with the counter. So it's a healthy way of diverting, redirecting, and reconnecting. when you don't feel good. Divert, try and reconnect. It is so important. And get out of that headspace enough time so that you don't implode, is all I'm saying. And that you can say, you know what, I'm having a really bad day. And like, if when I've done that with Mason, my stepson, he is so sweet. And your son, Preston, it's like, what do? They just come and hug. They like, it's okay.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
like in my family, we're becoming so in tune with each other now that they just realize right there, mom's not in a very good mood, and they just kind of sprawl out.
Yeah.
And now they starting to know me so well that they always find something to make me laugh.
Nice.
So
Nice.
we just
But it starts somewhere.
exactly.
And it started with
starts
you
with-
being
yes.
aware of that pattern and not liking it, because you and I talk about everything, Sabrina, too. So and then, awareness is so important, and not wanting to keep perpetuating those negative patterns that we don't like about ourselves or in our dynamics within our relationships, you guys. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Yeah, anyway.
And guys, I'm so glad you said that, because it's not that we can't be around our horses or be around other people when we're in crappy places.
I know.
It's just being aware of it and
Yep.
not expecting a lot from our relationships when we aren't having much to give to them.
Good point. And often we do. That's like sabotaging ourselves, isn't it? It's like, unless, that's complicated though, because too, you often, I know, I'll give some examples. This gets complicated. This is a good process though. Like in the beginning of getting back into horses, when I started this business, and I took that 2-year sabbatical to study. This is right, before I met you. And I created like an ashram at my place in Whitehaven, Maryland, to just be quiet and get out of that busy life that I had in DC and the business and all that. And part of that process of learning at that level, some self-care, and appreciation for quiet time. What I learned too, talking about all of this, is my horses were absolutely a mirror of who I was at that time. But you take me now, all these years later, working on myself during this process, a continuation, I can be in any mood I want, and my horses are there like a best friend who wants to comfort me.
Yeah.
And that's the hope that I want to give, like my horsemanship students, is, in the beginning, when you're trying to really be real with yourself and figure out things and get to know yourself and get to know your horse and learn together, it's challenging. It is challenging. And often our horses are going to reflect those weaknesses and strengths within us. But through my work specifically, one of the things that it does is if you do it enough, you create a level of autonomy, a healthy level of interdependence, and a healthy level of autonomy, where the horse is rehabilitated to the point where they feel secure within themselves and in the relationship they share with you. And so that means they start to make their own decisions. And this is where that whole consensual, you got to witness a lot of that in the growth of Smokey and me, more than anybody. Sundance, we kind of we didn't do a lot with her at the time, but Smokey and Lay was way far ahead of both of them. But Smokey was still an evolving process with his level of trauma and rehabilitation and my level of growth, personal growth. And, Smokey got to that point before, later, Erica, definitely not until down here in Florida and years later. But Smokey got to that point where he could handle, he wanted to handle, and he could handle just about anything. And he would choose it. He would say, pick me, I'm signing up for today. I want to be involved in your clinics and your classes and your people. He touched so many people's lives because he chose that. But in the beginning, he would have run from it. So it's like Erica and I keep talking, you guys. This is a process. This isn't just a quick fix. You don't just start meditating and everything gets better. We're talking about this full circle of everything that's involved in this process of self-help, self-care, personal development, and then wow, look what happens when you bring that you into your other relationships. It's just so
Right.
powerful.
Right. Yeah. I love that. It's so early on, you're saying, like, when we're depleted early on
Yes.
in our relationships, where we can broadcast to our horses incongruent feelings, thoughts, negative and opposing energies. We're intending, so with going to our horse with the idea of, like, I want to go work on flying lead changes today.
Yes.
Or something that is a challenge for both of you, and coming from this incongruent, depleted place may be setting you up for failure.
Yes.
Because Caroline wrote beautifully about this. It's not only alarming and stressful to our horses to be like, what are you bringing to me right now? I don't even know.
Who are you?
When we're incongruent and depleted, it interferes with their ability to engage naturally with their surroundings and use their senses fully, use their senses to read us, connect with us, feel comfortable and safe, and trust us.
Yep.
So if they're using so much energy in all of those things, how are they going to learn a new skill?
Yes, they can't. You're absolutely right. Unless they're open, as I always say, an open learning frame of mind and open trusting, they're not going to learn anything. And then we resort to mechanics and force. And that's what a lot of horse training teaches. Even some of the natural horsemanship, unfortunately, today still resorts, to mechanics and force without really stepping back to identifying why isn't this easy? And I think that's the key thing I want to promote, Sabrina. Let's put that on our marketing this year. Is horse training should be easy. You guys, if you do it right, even the most challenging horses, it should be an easy process. It may take time, a lot longer, but it should not be this big fighting. I get so provoked when I see pictures of trainers, on the either riding a bucking horse or a bolting horse or yanking on their mouth, spinning them around, or a horse online rearing and bolting from them and just going nuts. And you see that a lot when you go to these expos or on RFD TV, here, let me show you how talented I am. I'm going to turn this crazy wild horse, into this calm horse. And yeah, that's a lot of smoke and mirrors, you guys, coming from one clinician to another. It shouldn't be that way. It should not be that way. I can't wait.
Right.
Yeah. It's like taking this wild Mustang that I totally gentled. I had the honor of a new client of mine this year, to find me and send this little tiny, beautiful, wild Mustang. He's about 5 years old, straight from the shipment to the kill pen, straight here. And he was undernourished and bony, and he had never had a halter. And long story short, we filmed every day of me gentling him and some of it's on YouTube just to give people a taste, and taking the time to introduce things that he's never, Erica, he's never been introduced to, like the lead rope, haltering. What do you mean,
Sure.
pick up my feet and groom? And I did all of that at Liberty. I had him picking up his feet for me at Liberty, allowing me to brush him. And I worked with energy first around him, close when I could get close enough, but he didn't want me to touch him. So I did the energy work and simulated me brushing him and touching him. And I think in 1 hour session, I was able to brush and touch him. So it's like, it makes me sick when I see, wild Mustangs are so crazy and they're, unpredictable. It's a wild horse, for God's sakes. And I'm like, they are so smart and easy They are 100 times easier to train than a domesticated horse that has trauma. Because these horses haven't learned what these domesticated horses have learned. They're just responding on true instincts, and they're so present. They don't have trauma, guys. They're so present. They don't have triggers, and so smart. If you just give them the time, a few minutes, they figure out. They figure out. And they're like, okay, you're no threat. I'll let you come closer, or I'll come closer. So anyway, I don't mean to go off on a tangent about the horses, but it's a reflection of us too, though, in how we handle ourselves and how we handle everything in life, you know, and just stepping back and taking the time to be aware of how we feel. And if you don't feel good, I still go to my horses and they know it, and I talk to them and I hug them, and I might cry into their necks and they hug me back. They don't run from me. You know, when I first got back into horses, I electrocuted Legend all the time, you guys, and Sundance didn't want anything to do with me. So, I mean, I know what it's like to be in that incongruent space, and horses don't want you in your head all the time. They want you in your heart. You know, that's not, they don't think like we do. So I think maybe authentic, you know, self-care is part of being authentic. Whether you feel great, you have self-love, or you don't, you know, it's like, where are you? And then what do I do with that information? What do I do with that information about where I am? And it can change. It can change daily. Sometimes I feel like I'm like an emotional roller coaster sometimes if I'm overwhelmed. And, you know, in my personal life and in my business life, and my personal life just isn't my family, right? Or my close friendships. It's all of my relationships. And it's also me, like you said, Erica, am I being creative? You know, we're creative people. So when you're creative, I think you need more than the average person. You need to create, and you, in that part of creating, whatever it is also what feeds you.
Right.
And there's more creative people than people think, you know? Like, creativity is obviously singing, right? And playing a musical instrument, but it's not just the obvious. Creativity could be journaling. It could be scrapbooking. It's knitting, it's sewing, it's planting. It's you know, it's pruning. It's creativity is when you take an experience and you allow your inner creative side to guide you. To guide you into whatever your expression is, however you express what you're feeling or thinking. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. To me, it does.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of abstract, but it's like everybody has, to me, something creative.
That's a good point.
Came to some, here's an interesting thing about creativity. I had a patient the other day who, she, in her second chakra area of her body, she had not had the experience of feeling, this is going to sound really off topic for a second, but
I know where you're headed.
She did not have the sensation from her bladder that she had to pee in years. And we started I was talking about what second chakra means, and we're talking about creativity, and she's like, well, I'm not creative. And I said, really? You were just telling me that you like to garden and you like to, I can't remember what they were, but there were several things that she liked to do. She liked to knit, I think. So we worked with her belief book. Somewhere along the way in her Akashic record, she heard the idea that she wasn't a creative person. And so she owned that. Oh. And so we helped her change that belief and did some energy work. And by the end, she got the experience of feeling her bladder telling her she had to go to the bathroom for the first time in years. Oh. So there can be very tangible things about when we feel these shifts within us and feel.
That was beautiful example. Thank you. That was really good for everyone to understand where the block is and how it manifests in our body, and we don't even realize it. The emotional block. and we don't even
Right.
realize it. So talk about, we're going to run out of time with you. And listen, you guys, if you all like this podcast, please let us know, because like I said, we personally would love to create a whole new podcast series on just these discussions of self-care and relationships. But I want Erica to quickly, we don't have a lot more time because she's got to go back to her other job. What are Akashic readings? What is it that you do that, let them know? Or
Sorry, I was
yes.
like, I just wanted to say two things
Yes,
about
say
what
it,
you
say
were
it.
saying
Yes,
that were
go.
so inspiring to
Go.
me. You know, so many people look at unfortunately still thinking about breaking a horse's spirit, and what you're talking about is bringing a horse's spirit out.
Yes.
And wanting to connect with that spirit, and it's just so beautiful. And like you said, it's about being authentic. It's about being in our relationships. It doesn't mean if we're in a terrible space we can't go be with our horses, but we've got to realize how we're feeling authentically, and just say, maybe we just brush our horse that day and just talk to our horse and say, I'm in a pretty shitty mood, but I love you and I just want to be here with you. And then it's clear. But going and trying some difficult maneuver or something that you've been working on when you're not in a good headspace is going to probably end up in a fight. So it's being willing to be flexible, to say, okay, what energy am I bringing to the table today? And
just be honest about it. Most of the time, it'll release. As soon as you're honest about it, like that's self-care right there, isn't it? Just saying, hey, I feel like shit today, instead of denying it and pushing through it. Just say, I feel like shit, man, but I really want to be with you, and I want to see if we can do this exercise, horse, right?
Right.
Sometimes that's all it takes, you guys. Just try it. It's pretty powerful. And it makes you softer, and then it makes you not so forceful. Like you just kind of submit to it in a good way. You just kind of submit to the fact that you don't feel good, and it's okay that you don't feel good. You give yourself permission at the same time, and it softens us so much. I am such a fighter. It's in my blood, you guys. It's in my actual genetics. And I was also, through my family dynamic, it is been a negatively learned behavior too. And I've spent most of my life pushing and fighting. And that's one of the best gifts that both my husband and my horse, Sundance, have given to me, is helping to reveal that side of me, which is the masculine side, and owning and coming into my feminine side of not feeling like I have to make it happen. I've got to push. I've got to fight all the time. I've got to be heard all the time. And a lot of that, unfortunately, is the way I was brought up. That was just a very unhealthy family dynamic where I wasn't heard and I wasn't respected. So yeah, it's not that easy. We get it. We get it. That's why we're here, because we've got a pretty good guide and roadmap through our personal experience and helping so many other people, to helping everyone feel that inner peace and ease and moments of contentment where you're just so happy right where you are. There isn't anything else you need or want. You're happy right with who you are and where you are. It's a pretty amazing place to be in.
Sure is. Even when they're fleeting moments.
Yes. How did I get there? I got to remember that. How do I get back?
Right.
How do I get back?
Well, I would love to just wrap up real quick and talk about how self-care through the chakras, and this is sort of a launching point for further podcasts if people are interested, and then talk a moment about Akashic record work. So we can think of self-care at all of the chakra levels, and there's an active and a passive, a doing and a being state at each one of them. So, for example, I wrote a lot more about these in my blogs, so we'll be giving you that website as well.
Yes.
But first chakra, being grounded, like Caroline was saying, whatever makes you feel grounded. It might be going and being in nature. It might be sitting and leaning on a tree. It might be, this is also maintenance of your body and your home. Like, how grounded do we feel when our kitchen's a mess or our house is a mess? Sometimes just doing those things, doing the laundry, actually makes you feel better.
Yes.
But there's also the being sides to it. First chakra, being grounded, also has to do with feeling safe, feeling restful, relaxing. Maybe you lay in a hammock, or you go for a leisurely slow walk,
Or a bath.
How
about a bath? Yeah.
Yeah. Second chakra, that brings me to the element of water, being fluid, actively getting into that creative space. Sometimes just moving our hips gets us into that space of flow. Maybe dancing in the kitchen while you're
Cooking.
You're cooking, or riding. Obviously, gets you into that movement. Moving fluidly in your life and doing something creative, or all things, even if it's 5 minutes, can help you get back into that upward spiral. The being side of that is listening to water, being in water, enjoying something sensual, which can be intimacy with another being, or receiving through your senses, just noticing taste, touch, smell, sight, sound, things that you enjoy through your senses. The third chakra, self-care, you can do are being boldly yourself, doing something, sometimes doing something that makes you a little bit afraid can activate that fire. Just the Just Right challenge. I'm not telling you to jump off a building or anything like that, but something that helps you to feel strong. And that might be saying no to somebody. It might be setting a boundary. On the being side of things, aligning with what inspires you, your personal contracts, your personal gifts that you brought to this world, or being near fire, are things that you can do. Fourth chakra, love and be loved. Doing acts of kindness for others, doing things that you love in life that are just fun. Loving life. And on the being side, receiving love, asking, would you give me a foot rub? Or would you just hug me? I need a hug. Or just feeling loved by life. Going outside and just feeling like, wow, I feel the breeze loving me right now. It feels good.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Sixth chakra, be insightful. Do something that the doing part, seek information, read, look into something that stimulates your brain and inspires you. Listen to, read anything that you can take it in. And on the being side, listening to your own inner wisdom, to the divine presence that comes to you from all sorts of ways in life. And lastly, the seventh chakra, the being spiritually connected. So connecting to the divine actively. For some people, that might be going to a spiritual service, or seeking something that connects with their spirit, some kind of information or experience, or receiving that love from the divine. Just receiving it. Taking it in.
Beautiful.
So, how I can help you with, if you're feeling blocked on any of these things, is helping you figure out what your block is. What is the cup or the chakra that's depleted, that's going to help all the other ones feel more alive too. Help you to, you in your Akashic records, which is the records of your soul, you have a belief book where you keep all those programs from things people have said and things that you've taken in, and even if you're okay with going there, past life experiences. Like, for example, some of us have had taken vows of poverty and chastity in previous lives, or died in terrible ways, and we have this belief like, I'll never do that again. And, and there are things we can do to release those things and help write new beliefs. And it's amazing how you begin to run a new program. And to the thing that I think fills us all up the most is connecting with our life purpose or our life purposes. For many of us, we have several of them. And then when we do something for self-care that's towards that life purpose, we feel so charged up and excited.
Yes. It's such a great connection. I mean, that's like you said, it's soul work. It's connecting to your soul's guide and destiny that is often so unconscious for us. You know, we haven't brought that to a conscious level. We don't know how. Nobody really talks about this. You know,
Right.
How do you, and a lot of people, you know, I've listened to TED Talks. I've gone through a couple of books lately that talk about, you know, not everyone has a passion or a purpose for what they want to do. And I've thought a lot about that. And it's kind of, for me personally, working again with so many people over the years, identifying patterns of beliefs, you know, oh, I'm not talented. I don't really have any gifts. Well, to me, everybody has at least one talent, at least one gift. And with that, everyone has something that they're passionate or feel purposeful about. You just haven't found it. And I'm not here to wish that on anyone. I'm not here to say, oh, I want you to have a purposeful life. But everyone that I've worked with, the underlining like unease that's very unconscious for so many people is, I don't know what to do with my life. I don't feel connected to my authenticity. Everybody wants to be authentic. What's authenticity then? It is what we're talking about. And it could be, you can find your authenticity. You can find your purpose. You can find your gift just in the awareness of what you like and don't like. I know this might sound abstract, but you could just being honest. And how many of us just go through the motions of life and we don't really question whether we like it or not?
Right.
We haven't been taught.
In fact,
yeah. What?
That is a in the deep auspices of yoga. That's a path to God, right there, to the divine. Is not this, not that, they call it, and just that helps you discern. That is absolutely a path.
Yes. This stuff is deep and, you know, very, very deep. Practicing Taoism, Buddhism. This is a lot of the deep readings of the path to enlightenment, to your own personal enlightenment. And enlightenment is a freedom. It's a feeling of freedom where, like what Erica is able to do with the Akashic records and readings, is helping you understand the belief system or the story that's been told to you or that you just inherited from your family dynamic of believing this is who you are or what you are. You know, if we didn't have all of that, I mean, think how pure babies are when they're first born. And born into a healthy environment, not an abusive environment of neglect or trauma. But just think, babies are pretty, besides their basic needs and crying for some of their needs, because that's how they start communicating, they're pretty happy, aren't they? They don't have a care in the world. What happens to us? What happens to us? Why do we end up with all these cares, concerns, stress, and worry? Where does it all come from, you guys? Wow, that's a heavy one. Where does it all come from? And yep, we can.
Maybe a topic for another time.
Yes, we can go down that rabbit hole.
We can.
All right, so we're going to leave you all with that. I will gather Erica's information, and we will, as soon as this audio podcast is recorded, it takes a few days. Maybe not. Might be 24 hours. We will upload it to the social media platforms and give a description that will give links. I'm going to create a PDF of Erica's, the written material, and links to her website and links to my stuff. And let us know. Give us your feedback if you want to hear more about this. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so fun to be with you in this way.
It is. It's amazing. Like, I'm buzzing right now, and so sorry that we had crazy. I mean, it's pouring right now, but it doesn't affect, doing the audio. We'll figure this one out so we can stream live. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm excited. I still have shivers from doing it this way, so.
Okay, good.
It's great.
I think we were supposed to do it this way because it's really weird. Like, our internet's working. I just don't.
Yeah, our internet is working.
It's working and it's pouring.
Yeah,
so
that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, so it's just really weird. Really weird. Here we go hey, let's real quick before we sign out. This will be good for the girls, my students who have heard about my electricity.
Are you still recording?
Yeah, we're still recording.
Okay.
We're recording. We're still live. Well, not live, but recording the podcast. So,
okay. Back
me up for all of you that have heard me tell some of the stories about how I've shut down electronics and zapped this and zapped that. Erica is my witness.
Oh, yes.
And Chelsea would be too if she was here. But I think one of the scariest for all of us was the Massachusetts equine in 2010. Remember when we stayed in that hotel, you, me, Mary, and Chelsea? And no, this wasn't the Mass. This was Virginia. I know this. So real quick, in the background, you guys, we unplugged a radio and it keeps coming on. I think it's charged, but it keeps coming on and making lots of noises. It was the Virginia one. Remember how disappointing the Virginia one was? It was the women's first, I think it was the women's first Road to the Horse challenge, and I was invited. Mm-hmm. Wherever we were in the hotel room, that the TV came on, and it was like Poltergeist, where it was all, the screen was all like Poltergeist, you guys. So we're sitting in the room. I think I might have been crying or wanted to cry. I was really upset. It was the four of us. And I was sitting on the bed with Chelsea. You were in front of me by the door, and Mary was by the TV. And all of a sudden, the TV turns on, and it's all static electricity. And then there was a bolt of electricity that came out of the TV and into us, but didn't touch any of us.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I can't remember which expo it was.
No,
but
I think I agree. That's Virginia. Yeah.
It was Virginia, because we were so disappointed and naive. And here we were pioneering this method of mine, and we all believed in it. And we were watching two of the other women competitors, I was the third, manhandling and forcing these unbroke horses, because it was a 3-day, 1 hour a day competition. And we were just devastated, because like nobody got what we were doing. Nobody got what I was doing.
Wasn't the right time or the right audience.
No, it wasn't. But wow, that was just, I'm not lying, Sabrina, when I talk about, now Sabrina's like, I'm starting to see all this stupid electronical crap not working. And there's no rhyme or reason sometimes. All right, love, you got to go. I love you. And
I love you so much.
I love you so much, soul sister. And we have another, let me know if you can do that date next month for a continuation of this.
Yeah, I did. The 14th.
Awesome. Yep, cool. All right, guys.
Sent you an email.
All right, thank you, love. And have a great day. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Love you. Bye, hun.